Now, if you will turn even further behind, it's the 10th page. I know they're not numbered, but it's the 10th page of this total document. I'm going to finish up here, then I'm going to go back and sit over and ask the rest of my questions. But on that, when you're at that page, it'll make some sense here. You should see Officer LaFleur. I think I said that to the bar staff at the top. A single line. I see that. Okay. Just below the middle binder clip, so about the middle of the page, you see a sentence that reads, "It should be noted that the CAD call history identifies Officer LaFleur as the officer having a person secured."
Yes, sir.
And are you basing that, if you leave your hand right there, turn back to tab 2. Leave your hand right there because we're going to come back to this. Tab 2 is the CAD call history. Are you at the CAD call history now?
Yes.
You see on the second page of the CAD call history, the entry 10059. Comment AM 1015.
Where we at now, again, sorry?
Is the AM 1015, is that?
What's the time frame?
It's the 10059 on page 2. 10059. Comment
Yes, sir.
AM 1015. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, is that what you're basing what you wrote in your report over here, that the CAD call history identifies Officer LaFleur as the officer who announced a person?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, these CAD call histories, the CAD pages, so that's input by a person, right?
It is.
And they're basing it on what they hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And those CAD call entries can be wrong sometimes, can't they?
At times. Yeah.
The reason I ask that is you never requested, did you, the audios of the call?
For the 911 call?
Yes, sir.
No, I did not.
What knowledge do you have that Mr. Cook, the business agent for the union, requested them? Do you have any knowledge of that?
I remember something. Yes, I remember something like that.
The call histories are very short. I'm going to play them both. I think both are less than 3. I think one is two or three minutes, and the other I want to play for you as well. This would be the 911 call. Just a moment, which you have not heard yet.
Hey, it's not a super emergency. I work at a bar in downtown DeLand, Florida. There's a guy here that's kind of belligerent and won't go, and I didn't know any other number to call.
Okay, what is the address where you're at?
Hey, Jack, what is the address? I believe it's,
You're in DeLand, correct?
yes, ma'am.
And you said it's called the Boulevard?
Yes. The owners of my bar also own another bar in town, and their head bouncer is friends with some of the local police, and we called him, and he said some police are on their way. But they're only a few blocks away, so it's kind of been a few minutes, and I didn't know if I should just call in case. But he's just hanging out outside, and somebody said he had a knife. I haven't personally seen it, but I've got customers in here. I'm sorry?
Has he gotten physical with anyone, or is he just being verbal?
He's just verbal right now, but our bouncer asked him to leave, and he's trying to get him to go outside and fight him. Right now I've got him just staying outside and not walking through the door, but he's lurking, and he's definitely had a little bit of drink.
Hold on a second. We're
Okay.
close the street on the corner to where you are.
I'm sorry?
What is another cross street close to your location?
This is part of the audio, it was blank for a while.
Okay. Correct?
I'm trying to walk back in right now.
Is he white, black, or Hispanic?
I'm sorry?
Is he white, black, or Hispanic?
I can't, I'm sorry.
Is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He's white. He's white. He's got tattoos on both arms.
What color shirt does he have?
He's wearing a black shirt and dark blue navy Dickies.
And you said tattoos on both arms?
Yes. His, right
Black
arm.
shirt, blue short?
Blue, no, navy blue Dickie pants. Oh wait, somebody just pulled up. Okay,
Right.
okay. Should I get on the phone with you or can I get off the
Get on with
phone?
me until you know that they're in contact with him.
Okay, he's walking out.
What is your name?
My name is,
What's a good phone number for you?
they're,
Where exactly is he right now?
he's outside.
They have him?
Yeah, the police just, wrapped his hands around him. He's putting handcuffs on now.
Okay, perfect.
Oh my
Thank you
God.
very much. You
No
will go
problem.
back.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, bye-bye.
Okay, that was the 911 call. You've never heard that before, sir? You never requested it from, did you? Now, the reason I asked that is because now I'm going to play you the 1 minute and 30-second additional radio traffic for which the CAD operator believes that LaFleur is the officer who announced having a person secured. Right? And you wrote that because you relied on the CAD report, right? Okay, we'll play that now.
Could it be at the Boulevard Bar, 208 Woodland Boulevard? We got a mail subject, possibly got a knife. I don't know what the disturbance is yet. All units emergency checks, like Terry 11 on scene for disturbance, possibly armed.
There's a long pause that the portion I really want you to focus on is coming up. Coming up now.
555 Highway Central, call 11 Gallon, what's your, call that, really, Jeff.
Okay, I'll play it again if you need to hear it. But my question for the play it again, did you understand that Officer Goins was 5C51?
Yes.
Did you also understand that Officer LaFleur was 5C11?
Yes.
Okay. Let's play that brief 3-second. Listen closely.
All right, copy, one secure. It's all units, they're emergency traffic, all units, whatever.
Really, Jeff. Highway Central, call 11 Gallon, what's your, call that, really, Jeff.
Did you hear him say Charlie 11 has one secured?
Yes, sir.
That was Officer Goins, correct?
Yes, it was.
That wasn't Officer LaFleur, right? So the CAD report is wrong, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, isn't it true, I know he's already been fired, he was a probationary officer, Officer LaFleur, He told you, did he not, when you were questioning him, to go pull the sheriff's office audio, that he was not lying, that it was not him that called in
I
security?
believe he was talking about the salad pool, if I'm not mistaken.
You could be wrong about that?
I'm sorry?
You could be wrong about that?
I don't know that. I don't know.
The city put into evidence Officer LaFleur's testimony. Come over here for me. It's my understanding, sir, that Officer LaFleur, when he was having his credibility question, suggested to you that you could get better evidence to prove he wasn't lying about, that he wasn't the one that called in, that the person that was secure, that it was Goins. But you didn't pick up a finger or do anything to get the audios that we just played, did you?
I did not.
Let me find it. And isn't it true that Officer LaFleur also told you, I remember yesterday on direct, you said something about that LaFleur, about he didn't list the proper charges or something on the charging affidavit. Do you recall some testimony about that?
I'm calling out the case numbers?
Calling up case numbers?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that Officer LaFleur told you that he was going to make an arrest that night for resisting?
He said in his mind he had the intentions of actually charging him with resistance. That's what he was saying.
And he told you that the narcotics had nothing to do with it, didn't he?
I don't recall him saying anything about narcotics. I believe that what I said was that he asked for 2 case numbers and it was based on what Officer Goins asked him to.
Okay, if you'll turn to City's Exhibit 7 in the black notebook. And I believe, Alex, you had this submitted already, didn't you? Yes, sir. Okay. This is City's Exhibit 7. Tell me when you're there, sir. If you'll turn to page 5. Actually, I'm sorry, sir, page 8. Page 8. These are numbered pages. Page 8, tell me when you're there. You see the second entry for LaFleur. Last sentence of that second entry for LaFleur reads, "But Goins finding the narcotics had nothing to do with me already establishing that I was going to charge him with the resisting."
Yes, sir.
You see that, sir?
I do.
So LaFleur felt as though he had enough already to arrest him for resisting, correct? He's telling you that.
Yes.
And if Officer Goins, you understand, claims that he saw, as he came upon the scene, he thought he saw resisting by Mr. Staff, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I believe yesterday you told us that you saw nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with the detention or the detaining of Mr. Staff, correct? But and when someone's detained, that can lead to an arrest for resisting, correct?
Yes.
Depending on how the suspect responds during.
Depending on whether there's any kind of resistance, physical resistance.
Okay. In just a moment. Turn to the second interview, which is a few pages after this one. It starts over again with a new page 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. When you go to page 4, You see at the top of the page there, he is telling you about the fact that the CAD screen was wrong about who called out for Mr. Staff being secured.
Yes, sir.
Do you think he was lying about that?
I just questioned him on in reference to the cat call.
But now, in this very City Hall chambers, you've had, for the first time by your own admission, had a chance to hear the actual audio, and you agree that CAD report's a mistake.
Yes, sir.
That you could clearly hear it was Goins calling in saying that the 5C11, meaning LaFleur, is the one that had someone secured.
Correct.
Okay, I think we were up to your tab 8, sir, in the white notebook. You talked about that one report. I'm just going to try to go through these fairly quickly. Just to have it down. Yes, sir, in the white notebook.
Okay.
We had you at tab 8, which at this time, Mr. Finnegan, I'd like to move into evidence what's been marked as Union's Exhibit 8. That'd be the email from Mr. Batten, May 6th, and the report behind it. Okay.
Tab 8 of Union's exhibit is admitted into evidence as Exhibit 8 of Union.
All right, sir, turn to tab 9, if you will. While you're looking at that, I'm going to come back over. I have to talk behind this glass. All right, sir, do you recognize the email that's at the beginning of Exhibit 9?
Yes.
Okay, this is a June 19th email from you to Luis Vasquez, correct?
Yes, sir.
And behind it, if you'll look at the report, it's to Gary Batten from you, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were sending this version of the, I'll call it a draft report, to Luis Vasquez, correct?
Correct.
And on page 2 of Exhibit 9, you have sustained on the 1.21 charge, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then not sustained,
Can I catch up with you?
yes, sir, behind tab 9, white notebook,
Yes, I'm there.
okay. Second page,
Yes.
uh,
Look for the word sustained.
yes, sir, yes, sir. So you sustained on this first charge, this is your own draft, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you the one that made that, are you making a recommendation of sustained on the first charge?
This is actually the one that I actually sent to Officer Vasquez for him to be viewed for.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why we have the cover email from you to Vasquez, correct?
Yes, sir.
And why are you sending it to Vasquez, who is a part-time officer and a subordinate to you, to review?
For kind of go over the report, make sure that it actually reads well.
Okay. Does Vasquez have, what knowledge, if any, do you have as to the training and experience of Officer Vasquez in the area of law enforcement officer Bill of Rights and proper investigative techniques?
He's also taken the course for the internal affairs.
Okay. You took the same course you took?
He took a different school, but yes, similar.
Okay. By the way, how long has he been with the department?
About 15 years.
Has he been a road patrol officer at any time?
He was for the first 5 years of his career.
Okay. Do you know why he's part-time now, not full-time?
He's military.
Okay. Did you select him to be an IA with you, or was he assigned to you?
I actually selected,
Okay.
or I recommended that he.
You recommend. Okay. So you are sending a draft report on June 19, June 19 at 10:38 a.m. to him, correct?
Yes.
What I want to know is, this is the first time we're seeing the word sustained or not sustained in any of the versions of the report.
Correct.
Was that your determination of sustained, or did you have the input of anyone else?
For the not sustained and so on,
Let's just go with the first one, the sustained.
yes, it had to be me.
Was it
Me.
solely you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And you're recommending not sustained on the next two charges, correct?
at first I was giving them, I believe this is a portion of the one that I had written and I had not changed it. Because, originally I was thinking that Officer Goins, based on me not having knowledge of that particular area where you can't see him in the video to say that he actually witnessed it, that I was already thinking, all right, well, it could have been an easy mistake from Officer Goins to say that, you know,
Okay.
so that's probably what it was, and I just didn't change it.
Well, I'm just trying to get you to tell us under oath, are these your initial recommendations,
Yes.
not sustained?
Yes, yes,
And this was your recommendation alone?
yes,
Okay. And then we'll skip past all of the narrative, other than to ask, did you write this report? Beginning on the third page. Complaint summary and then all the narrative that follows.
yes.
Okay.
This report here,
Yes, sir.
are you inquiring about the one in red, highlighted in red? Is that-
Well, that was my next question, because there's some red annotations here in red, and I want to know who those came from.
It could have been from Officer Vasquez.
Could have been.
It had to be from Officer Vasquez.
Okay. Okay. So any of the red additions we're seeing came from him, Vasquez, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So we see the first red additions, counting the email as page 1. We see them on page 5, correct? Citing the statute.
I'm lost. 1 second.
Okay. The email is page 1,
Okay.
up behind tab 8,
Yes, sir.
or 9, I'm sorry, my fault. And then your report begins, so it'd be the 4th page of the report, 5th page of this exhibit.
Okay.
And there's, in red, there is a statute mentioned there, correct?
Yes,
So are you telling us, since it's in red, the inclusion of this statute came from Officer Vasquez?
yes,
Okay. And he cites you to the resisting without violence?
yes, sir.
Correct. Okay. Next page, there's a red entry under third interview. Did that come from Vasquez?
I don't think this came from Officer Vasquez.
Do you know
I
who,
wrote this.
do you know who it came from?
It had to be me. I mean, I know my writing, so, I mean, obviously this is tight, but the way I work things.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked, now, turn the next page, after the one that says third interview, at the top of the page says Lieutenant Milan, as you're talking. If you wrote this, you're writing it as in third person.
I've done that many times.
Okay. So you think that now, at least I'm hearing you say, any of the red additions came from you believe?
The changes, yes. It could have been the fact that Officer Vasquez sits right across from me, that him and I are actually discussing things.
Okay. All right. In the interest of time, is it fair to say, do you know if any of the red entries listed here, is it your understanding that they, or belief they came from you?
Yes.
Okay. But even with all these additions that you are describing in general, you still are recommending not sustained on 2 of the 3 charges?
Again, it could have been the fact that I actually forwarded to him before we even moved into looking at all the sustains and stuff like that. It could have been that, and then Officer Vasquez and I were having a conversation at the time, and at the time I said, I'll tell you what, let me just forward it to you, and I forwarded it to him, not changing anything on the report.
Well, the reason I asked about that is, we don't see those other 3 charges in this version either, do we? About integrity?
Correct. Again, like I said, I had the conversation with Officer Vasquez. It could have been the fact that he told me, hey, don't forget about adding these charges on there, and that's what I did. But I didn't do it through the email because obviously I had a conversation with him right there.
And by the way, am I correct that when you notified and brought in Officer Goins for his IA interviews, you don't give him all the various drafts and redrafts of your report, do you?
They're not complete.
Okay. All right. Let's go to, at this time, I'd like to move what's been marked as Exhibit 9 into evidence.
No objection. Exhibit 9 is admitted into evidence as unique to Exhibit 9.
Just turn the tab once there, sir. It looks like now the very next day, June 20th of the one we just looked at, June 20th of 29th.
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
Go to tab 10. Has a cover email once again, June 20th, 2019, 12:07. That's the day after the email you just sent. It looks like you sent from Milan to Vasquez on June 19th. He writes you back the very next day. You see that, sir?
I do.
Okay. And behind it is, again, a report. Turn to the very next page after the email. No, you're on the right page.
Okay.
We still see not sustained on 2 charges, correct?
Correct.
Still only sustained on 1.2.1 about not engaging in any conduct that constitutes neglected duty, correct?
Right.
Still don't see those integrity charges that we saw earlier, correct?
Correct.
And that made it into your final report.
Correct.
Okay, now this has similar narrative in both red and black font writing. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Same questions I asked previously. Is everything in red? Is it from you?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is where, follow me just a little bit. There are a few words that are, we go to the 5th page.
5th page on.
Actually, counting the email is 1, 2. Actually go to the 6th page, under 3rd interview.
Okay.
There's a couple of words in blue here
Yes.
for the first time. Are those yours, or did they come from Vasquez?
That would have to come from Vasquez.
Okay. And is that the same for any of the blue entries that we see? There's
Yes.
some on the next page as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And here's what I find, I didn't cover it in the last exhibit 9, but I'm going to ask you about it in here in 10. Go to the second to last page. Second to last page of 10. Okay, it's right above the paragraph with the word addition at the bottom. You see the paragraph that begins with addition? Article 10, presentation of evidence?
Yes, sir.
The last sentence of the preceding paragraph, would you agree that it reads, last 2 sentences, there is no evidence to support that the officers intentionally or maliciously false reported the details of the incident. The facts support that the issues were the result of assumptions, lack of clear communication, and a lack of experience. You see that, sir?
I do.
And that is now in your June 20th, 2019 version of this report, correct?
Correct.
This is now in a report that even your peer or subordinate, Officer Vasquez, and you have both looked over it 2 or 3 times now, correct? All right.
Mr. Wilson, can you just
Yes, sir.
what page did
Oh,
you just read
It's
from?
the second to last page behind tab 10. Second to last page is the easiest way to find them. They're not numbered. And it's a paragraph above the word addition at the bottom of the page, where it says addition, article, Roman numeral 10.
Okay.
The last 2 sentences of the preceding paragraph about there is no evidence. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now turn to tab 11. Oh, Ken, at this time, we'd like to move into evidence what's marked as Exhibit 10.
No objection. Exhibit 10 is admitted into evidence as unique to Exhibit 10.
Now I want to ask about Exhibit 11 and see if we can get through this before we may need to take a break. But this is now got a cover email from you to Deputy Chief Batten.
Okay.
You see that, sir?
I I do.
This is 4 days after the version that you and Vasquez just sent back and forth to one another on June 20th, 19th and 20th.
Okay.
4 days later, you send it up the chain to former Deputy Chief Batten, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's turn the page. Still have February 5th of 19 at the top, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay? And now we're into late June, right?
Okay.
And now we see the 3 charges, same 3 charges in black on page 1 of the report, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, curiously, we only see the word sustained on the first one, and not sustained is removed from the next 2, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, somewhere that we need to hear under oath, before you sending this up to Batten, you removed not sustained, right?
Yes, sir. Shows that I moved it.
Okay. Now suddenly again we see the 3 additional charges in red, correct?
Yes, sir.
Including the 3.530 and the integrity charges.
Correct.
Now, in red, who added these charges?
Me.
Okay. Did you add them on your own or with the influence or input of someone?
I did. I actually added them on my own. The first draft that we've been seeing with the changes with the blue and so on and so forth was actually Louis just looking to see whether it actually read right. But it actually had, whether there was any grammar that needed to be corrected to kind of help me out, make it, better for the reader.
Okay. Even though you sent this up to Batten and it says to Batten from Milan, and by the way, you really, that date on there is wrong, isn't it? February 5th of 19?
Yes, sir.
And this again is a public record that you made a mistake in, right?
I believe it was corrected before this actually became public record.
Well, we got it as a public record, and I'm showing February 5th.
I understand, but I'm just saying that it was corrected prior to actually if I'm not mistaken, the show cause.
Okay? Was this just an omission on your part?
An omission, honestly, I probably didn't even look at the date at the time.
So sometimes you make mistakes too, correct?
Absolutely.
Sometimes you're not as consistent or careful as you need to be, or you may misunderstand something, right?
I make mistakes.
Okay. Well, let's turn to the second last page. It's easier just to flip to 12, go back 2 pages. And I'm going to ask you about your
Where am I
snow.
at?
You're in this same document, number 11. We'll go to the very end, the last 2 pages. So you could almost go to tab 12 and then just go back 2. And Mr. Finnegan, it's the same, I'm going to point to the same paragraph. It's at the very bottom of the page above the word addition. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
So even in this report that is now going to your boss, Deputy Chief Batten, your immediate supervisor, would you agree the last 2 sentences are the same as in the version we just read?
Yes, sir.
There is no evidence to support the officers intentionally or maliciously false reported the details of the incident, correct?
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd like to move what's been marked as Exhibit 11 into evidence.
Okay. Exhibit 11 is accepted into evidence.
If it's okay, Mr. Finnegan, I think I've got 2 more of these I can get through, and then before we take a break with it.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's 5 after 12.
Turn to behind tab 12, sir. This, now 2 days later, 2 days after what's been marked as Exhibit 11, we have an email from Vasquez, Luis Vasquez, to Gary Patton. Do you see that, sir?
I do.
Now, was he a subordinate of yours, Vasquez?
Yes.
So, it's my understanding in all my years of working with law enforcement agencies that you follow the paramilitary chain of command, right?
That's correct.
So now you have Vasquez circumventing you going to Batten.
It wasn't that he was circumventing me. I was out on leave because I had surgery.
Okay. All right. So you were out. He goes, but he goes, at least on an org chart, he goes around you to Batten, correct? In this email.
Yes.
Doesn't even copy you on it.
Doesn't need to. I'm sure I had conversations with him.
Okay. And he says, DC, here is the IA, see attachment with the extended summary about the events that took place that night. Let me know if this is too much or any corrections needed. See that?
Yes.
Okay, turn the page with me, if you will, please. Again, we're only sustained on 1.2.1, right?
Yes.
Again, the not sustained has been removed from the other two, correct?
They're not there, correct.
And no determination on the integrity charges and the untruthfulness, right?
Correct.
Okay? Turn to the second to the last page, just like we did a moment ago. Second to last page. Tell me when you're there.
I'm here.
See above the word addition, the bottom of the page?
Yes.
Same two sentences, correct?
Yes.
Still no evidence to support the officers intentionally or maliciously false reported the details of the incident, correct?
Correct.
And that was still your belief, right?
That was part, like I said, these would have been drafts. So what I initially put on my original report was that in itself. That statement there was what I put on the initial report before I actually made contact with their Deputy Chief Batten, where he actually brought to light that particular incident, which is the reason why we went back to interviewing Officer Goins on the floor.
But the two people, one of whom we don't have any testimony from, Vasquez, who was involved with you, did a reenactment with you. You and he are consistently now telling us through, I think, 4 versions of this report that there's no basis to believe that these officers lied, correct?
And
Just answer my question.
I'm trying to answer
That
the question.
assumes facts, not an evidence.
Hang on.
I'll rephrase it. So I'm trying to just get an answer from you, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify.
We've gone through various versions that you and Vasquez have been involved in so
That's
far, correct?
Yes, correct.
And each one, so far, has said no basis to believe that these officers, LaFleur and Goins, intentionally lied, correct?
Correct.
Now, so at this time, I'd like to move into evidence what's been marked as Exhibit 12.
No objection.
Exhibit 12 is accepted as convenient exhibit 12.
Turn to tab 13, sir. Now the last one, the reason you might want to flip back, that was at 9:51 a.m., the email from Vasquez to Batten on June 26th. Well, less than an hour and a half later, at 11:09 a.m. on June 26th, do you see that?
I do.
He emails him again. He says, please disregard the previous email regarding the report. Here is the IA with the extended summary. You see that, sir?
I do.
Okay. So let's turn the page on this one. Still has February 5th at the top, correct?
Yes, sir.
Still sustained on only one charge, correct?
Yes, sir.
Turn to the second to the last page. Actually, turn to the last page on this one. Very last page before tab 14.
Yes, sir.
Tell me when you're there.
I'm here.
Would you agree that it again says there's no evidence to support the officers intentionally or maliciously false reported the details of the incident?
Yes, sir.
And again, it ends with saying that they're a result of assumptions, lack of clear communication, and a lack of experience, correct?
Yes, sir.
This time I'd like to move what's been marked as Exhibit 13 into evidence.
No objection.
Exhibit 13 is accepted into evidence as unique exhibit 13.
Okay. Let's go to one more. 14. Turn tab 14, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now we're into early July. This is from Gary Batten to Chief Umberger. Now we got the chief getting involved. Have you seen this email before, sir?
I can't say I did.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't say.
I did. I did not see.
Okay. All right. It's at July 2nd, 2:53 p.m. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, by my count, I just want to see if you follow me, sir. We've now, from exhibits 8 through 13, we have seen 6 versions of this report so far, correct?
Correct.
And would you agree that each one of them has found no basis to believe that these officers lied? Up to the ones we've looked at so far.
Yes, and can I point out something that says also February 2nd, February 5th, which I forgot to obviously remove from there, which was obviously a rough draft, which is the reason why that and I'm not saying that I didn't write that. I said I wrote the fact that, there was no findings, but that was at the initial of the report. Obviously, I forgot to change the date on it, and then also that statement at the end that you see that says there's no evidence. And like I said initially, because I wasn't aware of that particular clip, that's where I was leaning towards.
Okay, but I was asking you a factual question. We've gone through exhibits 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So far, there's no belief that these officers in any of those versions of the report were lying or doing anything false reporting, correct?
Again,
Objection, that mischaracterizes his testimony.
I'll rephrase it. Let me try to rephrase it. We just went through and saw the representations that's remained consistent with there being no belief that these officers did anything that was knowingly false,
the
correct?
statement is on it, correct.
Okay.
Again, it could have been the fact that I actually did not remove it because, as you can see, it says February 5th.
Okay. Well, now, the reason I ask is this is the first time we see it going above you and Vasquez.
Okay.
It's now going from Batten to Umberger. Do you see that in Exhibit 14? The first email behind tab 14?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And former Deputy Chief Batten on July 2nd sends to Jason Umberger a report
Okay.
from you dated July 2nd. You see that on the next page. You see that?
Yes.
It says see changes in red. Now let's just turn these pages quickly. This one now we have page numbers. You see page 1. Look at bottom of page 2 of the numbered report.
Okay.
We have some red and red. And the first one I want you is Chief Umberger reviewed the circumstances and immediately ordered an internal investigation to look into the incident. You see that?
I see that.
That's not actually true, though, is it? From what you told us today under oath.
I'm sorry.
You told us under oath that you wrote the citizen complaint and initiated the investigation.
Don't. Now you're changing it. I mean, what I said was I actually reviewed everything, obviously, and I can't say that there's going to be an internal investigation. It's going to have to go through my chain of command for them to order a internal affairs. I myself cannot order an internal affairs investigation. What I said was I reviewed the body cams and all the evidence that I had, and I forwarded to my chief, to the deputy chief, where they make the decision as to what's going to happen from that point on. They make the ultimate decision as to whether there's going to be an internal affairs. I, as a lieutenant, cannot make that.
You initiated the internal affairs investigation.
What I did was I got the findings and concerns which I turned in. Everything goes to the deputy chief and the chief to make a recommendation as to whether we're going to move forward with a internal affairs investigation.
The reason I asked that question, how do you know that the chief could have ordered an investigation the very same day of your February 5th citizen complaint?
Because I passed that on to my deputy chief as soon as I find my concerns, at which time they'll come back and say, hey, yeah, we're going to move forward with an internal investigation.
You wrote the report. I'm going to ask you again under oath. What do we have to verify that the chief reviewed the circumstances as you wrote here? Or as Deputy Chief Batten wrote?
We don't have any documents other than you asking Deputy Chief Batten and Chief Umberger. I don't have any documents to say. I've always done it this way. I've always present what my concerns are, and they make the decision as to whether they're going to move forward with an internal affairs investigation or not.
Well, let's see if that ended up in your final report. I understand this is from Batten to you, because on the front page of this memo, it
This
says...
is actually from me.
Oh, it's from you.
Yes, sir.
So you can answer this if you're the author of this. How do you put something in writing that you claim would be under oath, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't put something in writing that's not truthful, would you?
No, I would not.
Especially when you're investigating an officer that you have consistently said was not untruthful, but now you're going to turn the page and say he wasn't truthful in this report we're about to see, right?
Okay.
So I'm asking you, as the author of a document, what proof do we have that the chief reviewed the circumstances to order this IA?
I cannot make that decision of actually moving
No.
forward with internal affairs investigation. Can I just explain something? You're asking me a question and not allowing me to explain.
I'm asking you a simple question, and you're going on a narrative, and we're gonna be here all day, and I'm gonna call you again.
Okay.
Can we
I want
let
you-
him answer the question?
I want him to answer the
Hang on.
question.
Hang-
I'll
I
rephrase
just
it.
don't like his answer to the question.
No, he's not answering, he's being
Gentlemen,
evasive.
Gentlemen,
I'll ask it again, I'll rephrase and ask again. What evidence can you point us to as the author of this document that the chief reviewed all of the circumstances? That's a sentence you wrote.
I don't have anything that's written. I
Thank
personally
you.
turned it in.
It moves a lot easier if you just listen to my question and give me the answer. All right.
The answer that you want to hear are the ones that
I want the truth, sir.
But that's what I'm trying to explain to you.
And you just gave me the truth. You don't have anything, do you? You don't have anything to verify that the chief reviewed, do you? Yes or no?
No, I don't have anything.
Thank you.
But again, I can't initiate an investigation myself.
So, you write a sentence here that you don't have proof of, that the chief reviewed the circumstances. And now I want to ask you about these other red entries. Did these come from you, beginning on page 3, or did they come from Deputy Chief Batten or someone else?
So if you look at past reports, that's how I write. I normally start some of the sentences due to. So I would say this is from me.
I'm on page 3.
So
There's a red entry that says, there is no mention of a charge for resisting.
yes, sir.
Did you write that, or did it come from someone else?
It had to come from me, sir.
And just so I'm clear, when you say it had to, are you telling
It
me?
came from me, sir.
Okay. Do you have problems with your recollection? That's what I'm trying to understand, with your memory.
It's 2.5 years ago. I can't tell you, I'm trying to, answer the questions as best as I can.
Okay. So due to Goins, that, you said that's the way you write, so that's from you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did someone ask you to make these additions?
No.
Okay. Now let's go to the last page, second to last page of this. And now we have findings. Tell me when you're at page 24.
I'm here.
So 1.2.1, you sustained. You see that, sir?
I do.
For some reason, 1.8.2 is missing. It's now absent for the first time, correct?
Yes, sir.
We've seen it in draft after draft after draft after draft. And 8.2, 1.8.2 is gone, right?
Yes, sir.
Any explanation for that?
I have no explanation.
And now we, for the first time, after draft after draft after draft, have sustained on 4 additional charges, correct?
Correct.
And this happens to come right after, or is combined with, an email from former Deputy Chief Batten to Chief Umberger, correct? That's the cover to this report.
Okay.
Is it just coincidence that now that Deputy Chief Batten and Chief Umberger are involved, that we now have 5 sustained charges? Is that what you would have us believe? It's just coincidence?
No. Based on my investigation, then you can obviously see that the investigation, I went back and actually redid it. Do you want me to continue to answer that, or do you just want me to just give you a flat answer as to what you want to hear?
It'll go smoother because you're going to get a chance from Mr. Desrosiers to rehabilitate you or ask you more questions. What I'm trying to just get you to do is answer my questions.
Okay. Can you,
Yes, sir. So is it just coincidence that now we have 5 sustained charges for the first time after this report has an email from Batten to Umberger? Is it coincidence?
I don't know what you want to call it yet. I mean, you can say it's coincidence, but the facts are in the report.
Did someone influence you to make these
No,
changes?
sir. I have no influence. No.
Did you say to someone before this hearing that you weren't going to take a call to the chief again over a bad IA report?
What?
Did you say anything like that, sir?
About what?
About you weren't going to go down again for a bad report?
No, I was talking, no, that, whoever, The only person I was talking to yesterday was Officer Vasquez, and a comment like that was not made.
So we are to believe, and you would have the arbitrator believe,
Where are we getting this information like? Because this, you're
you don't get to
bringing
ask the question, sir, sorry.
This is,
Where
that's insane.
are we to believe, and you would have the arbitrator believe, that now you are sustaining 5 charges? Now in July, after the earlier revisions and drafts where you were not sustaining charges, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that that happened after input from the deputy chief and/or chief?
That, what happened?
That you then sustained charges after input from the chief and/or chief?
Again,
The deputy chief and/or chief?
Again, it could have been that I forgot to put the sustain or not sustain. Again, I've actually, if you can see the past reports on the past drafts, you can see the fact that I actually forgot to change the date and change that one paragraph at the end. Initially, yes, I was going to the fact that Officer Goins, it could have been a mistake, it could have been the fact. But at the end, after all my investigation, and me recreating the scene and knowing that that couldn't be possible, I sustained.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to move Exhibit 14 in evidence.
Exhibit 14 is omitted as usually Exhibit 14.
We're at about 12:27. Can I get through just one other email exhibit and then at 12:30? That'd be okay, Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Okay. All right, turn now to tab 15. This is an email, also of July 2nd. Same day, and if you need to flip back to 14, former Deputy Chief Batten Umberger was at 2:53 p.m. Now at 5:04 p.m., a little over 2 hours later, Chief Umberger writes back to